Hey guys and gals, Mike here with Trail 7, and today I'm super excited to bring you our kicker hideaway subs for our JT Gladiator. So here at Trail 7, we specialize in making it easier for you to upgrade your Jeep. Right here I have in front of me the kicker hideaway subs. I have the 10-inch, 180 watt hideaway powered sub, and here we have 150 watts in the 8-inch powered sub. We provide pre-terminated, pre-connectorized wire harnesses. We provide all of the extra wiring, all of the extra little hardware pieces, etc., etc. So today I'm going to show you how easy it is to install this 10-inch powered hideaway sub into your Jeep Gladiator. And how we're going to do that today is by using the stock head unit. You know, we've come out with this application, we've shown this install in the JK world, and in that application we used the Sony aftermarket head unit, plugging it with RCAs, and I had question after question of how do you install that using a stock head unit tying into the stock speakers. And today we're going to show you. So our wire harness we have prepped just for that type of install, which this sub is perfectly capable of installing in that application. If you do have an aftermarket head unit that accepts the RCAs, we can absolutely prepare a wire harness that's going to fit your aftermarket head unit, and we'll attach the appropriate cables for you, the wires for you, and the appropriate RCA connections to be able to plug right into that. But what we're going to demonstrate today is where to tie into the speaker wires. The path and the installation is just the same. I want to let you know that this sub fits perfectly behind the seat of the Jeep Gladiator. It is meant for underneath the seat of the Jeep JK, as well as underneath any other area like that. This will not, unfortunately, fit underneath the passenger seat or driver's seat of the Jeep JL. So I just want to make you aware of that. If you were looking for some sort of powered sub for the Jeep JL that would slide underneath the seats, this would not be the application. Not to say it wouldn't fit somewhere else in the JL, under the back seat, etc., but it's not going to fit under the passenger seats. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel so you won't miss what we're working on next. All right, so with that said, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what's required to get this guy installed into your Jeep. So we have already upgraded the speakers in this Gladiator with Trail 7's plug and play speaker upgrade, and today we're going to install the sub into it, which is going to completely complement that system and bring it all together. And if you're a fan of the plug and play setups, we just released our video of the kicker speaker upgrade in our JT, which is applicable for the JL Wrangler or the JT Gladiator. Go ahead and check the link in the description below. All right, so before we get this installed, let's go ahead and take a look at the tools that are needed for this install, which really aren't that many at all. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we need though. All right, everyone, so we have a couple of tools laid out here. It looks like a lot, it's really not a lot. You're literally going to be using each one for about one function of the install very easily. Just to kind of walk through here, we have a little bit of silicone, so we run the power cable through the firewall in the Jeep. You can seal the hole back up so you end up with wet toes. Pair of pliers, so you can squeeze together the connector that will show you how to attach. Piece of Velcro, which we're going to provide for you. A couple of zip ties. Some wire crimpers, and they also have wire snips to cut the zip ties. Recommend getting a little bit of electrical tape. Of course, this is the base controller that comes with the kicker. I brought this out so we can go ahead and put the Velcro sticker on there, and I'll show you that in a minute too. A trim pry tool, which I went ahead and put, it's metal because it pushes the wire back in more. You actually don't even need it to remove any trim pieces today, but you will need to push some wiring back underneath the trim pieces. So I just wrapped a little piece of tape around the edge just to protect the wire and the metal and whatnot. You do need a 10mm socket to remove the bolt off the battery to put the power cable on. Recommend a white marker of some sort. A 10mm box wrench. This is to loosen one bolt for the ground wire. A drill bit. Get a 1/4 inch drill bit, and this is to drill through the firewall in the driver's side passenger. And that's what the silicone is for, to seal that hole back up. And what I did here is I have a couple of pieces of wire because the harness that we're going to provide to you is going to come with this connector attached to it. All right. On your side of it, the only thing that you need to attach to your wire is the female side of the T-tap wire connector. And I'm going to show you, just in case you've never used one of these or unfamiliar with it, I'm going to show you how to install it. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to connect this, how to attach this to the wire. This is the wire that's going to be inside of your Jeep, and we're going to get into that in a minute. What you're going to do for the T-tap though, that we'll provide to you, there's these little blades on here, these little metal blades, that the wire is going to sit in between those little grooves. So once the wire's in between those grooves, you're going to close the top on it. You should hear it button down a little bit, a little tiny snap, and then use your pliers to squeeze down there a little bit firmer. You don't need to crush it, but you do want to push down in there. I heard another snap down. You do want to make sure that it is firmly pressed down. All right, what this is going to do is this is going to pierce the wire, so that way when you attach the male side that we provide connected to the wiring, it's going to complete your circuit connection there. In order to connect that side of it, a key important part here is, as you can see, this is the female end and this is the male end. Inside of this plastic piece is a little metal blade, and you want that metal blade to slide inside of this slot right here. So if you can put it on here and you can slide it in, and what's going to happen here is a good example of what you don't want to happen. So I've slid this in, and if you can see through the plastic, that metal piece did not go into the center where it should. So right now there is no connectivity. So if you can see that, it is not slid in. So if that happens to you, pull it out. Just move that little metal piece to where it's in the center. If you can see there, it's in the center of the plastic trim. And now realign it to where it lines up. Slide it in, push it together, and check both sides to make sure that the metal blade is not on the outside. The metal blade has slid inside, and now this wire is connected to this wire. We're also going to go ahead and do is install the Velcro. We'll provide this Velcro to you. Just attach to the bottom there like that. And then when we install it in the Jeep, we're going to install it in the dash, and I'll show you that. Another item I want to show you here, what I recommend, it does have these two dots here, a large dot for the louder volume, of course, a smaller dot for lower volume. And when you turn the knob, it's going to adjust it. However, there isn't any sort of marking on this knob here. So what I recommend doing is find where the groove is. In this case, the groove is right on top. And I'm just going to take my white marker and I'm going to mark right on top where that groove is. So later on when this is installed, I know exactly where my adjustment is. So that's about it for the prep. I just really wanted to show that to you because that's the only part that we're not going to be able to do for you. Again, we're going to attach this connector to you, we're going to provide these to you, and you're going to attach it to your wires just like that. Now let's go show you which wires and let's go get this sub installed. All right, we're ready to go ahead and get started with the install. So just to give you a quick layout, a quick summary of what we're going to do here, the sub is going to mount behind the driver's side back seat here. The wire harness is going to run underneath the bench here. The power side is going to run on the driver's side, and all of the speaker wires and the ground is going to run to the passenger side over here. It's going to follow underneath the carpet on the trim side here, and there is a ground bolt underneath the passenger seat that we need to access. So the first step of doing all of that is with the wiring. It's on this side, which is tapping into the speaker wire and the pillar over here. So let's go ahead and get started with the first step of moving the seat up out of the way so we can access the side panel, the trim panels, and remove the rubber floor mat. All right, that's out of the way. Let's move our tools and I'll go over with you what we're going to use exactly over on this side. I'm going to put the tools that we need down below here, which this is the trim piece remover tool. This is the extra ground wire that we're going to provide. This is your 10 mil box wrench. And this is the wire harness. I'm putting that down so I can lift this seat up. We're going to need that up eventually. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove this panel here. You can remove this piece first. This just pulls out right out at you. If you need extra leverage on there, and you can see what I did here, I'll get into that exactly. This trim panel just pops right off. A couple of retainer clips up on the top, along the bottom, along the side, and one more here. And this just has two little clips on each side, and that comes right out. That's just going to give you a little bit of access way when you pull the cable through. That'll just help you with that cable there. So you remove this last panel down below there. Now we have full access to the wires that we're going to tap into. So now earlier I showed you how to attach the T-tap to the wire harness. That's what you're going to want to do to these wires here, and I'll show you the color code on which to tap to. And then on the wire harness that we provide you, ours are going to come with the connections already just to plug right into it. So we're going to remove a couple of trim panels up front there. I'm going to show you how to do that. That'll give you more access to be able to run the cables up into the A-pillar here. Let's go ahead and move around to that. So you're going to want these two removed right here. You don't even want to move, you just want them pushed out of the way, unsnap. So this guy here, this just pushes right forward, just like so, and it'll disconnect the snaps. This guy will push up front to disconnect as well. And just like that. So you want to have that lifted enough to where when you go to the other side, you can feed the wire up through this part right here. All right, let's go ahead and prepare the wire harness. So I'd go ahead and just running it all out. The red power wire is going to run on the driver's side. So we can go ahead and pull the power wire away. It's all connected with the main connector here. But we can kind of just toss it over on this side here so it's out of the way. All right, now that's out of the way. This main harness over on this side is what's going to stay. This is what's going to go up front. And right now we're going to focus on the speaker wires or RCAs. If you are installing this into an aftermarket head unit, this part is not going to be for you. What's going to happen is the wire harness that you're going to receive from us, instead of having these connectors, we're going to have the RCA attachment onto these speaker wires, and you're going to continue running that RCA wire up along the trim, up into the dash, into the back of the head unit. So for this here, this is going to be connecting for the speaker wires to the stock head unit. So go ahead and you want to fish this cables up through this slot that you've opened up here. So I'm going to go ahead and fish these wires up. Now you're only going to fish up these two pairs right here, the two grays and the two whites. One gray has a black stripe, one white has a black stripe. They're both attached with the connectors attached to them. So I'm going to sit here. This is going to go inside this slot here, and you can use this hand to pull the trim away a little bit to help you to reach down. And you're going to just push that up behind with your other hand. There's plenty of room back here. This piece just pulls right out to give you more room if you need. And there you go. And go ahead and pull your wires up. So let's go ahead and leave those here. There's a split in the two panels right here. So you want to take the wires and run them through that split to go underneath it, like so. And then pull that wire through the trim while you hold the top of it. And then just pull that all the way through. And you can leave it about there, because we're going to need to push the rest of it through with our trim tool along with the ground wire, which we'll do in a second. Right now what I want to focus on is attaching the harness to your Jeep speaker wire. So these wires will come taped behind here a little bit. So those little piece of tape that holds this on. You want to remove that tape to expose this group of wiring here. Within that wiring, there are these two pairs right here, which I'll go over the colors for you. The green-gray is the positive, which is here. And the gray dark green is the negative here on my thumb. And then the dark green green is the positive over here, my pointer finger. And the dark green gray is the negative down here with my pointer finger. All right, so let's go ahead and walk you through how to attach the connectors into which wires. So we're going to go for the gray pair first. It's these two twisted pairs that you're after, remember. So let's grab the gray pair first. So for the positive, it is the gray and green, which is the cable. They both look gray and green, right? The gray green one, what they're meaning is the one that has more gray with less green. And if you compare the two, the other one has more gray, and the green itself is a darker green, which is what the description says. So this one is gray green. And in order to get that out, you can kind of untwist the cabling a little bit to get your finger underneath it, like so. And that's how you would attach the connector. Repeat on, this is your positive, so that's your gray-green. Go ahead and put your negative on your dark green gray, and then carry the same pattern over to the green pair. Separate them like so. The green pair is dark green green, which really just looks like a solid green all the way through. If you look really closely, you can see the light green that they're referring to is this barely little hint of a green in it. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and get started with connecting the wires. I'd recommend marking them positive and positive just like I did here. It doesn't matter once we connect which one goes to which as far as whether it's the gray or the white, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. So you go ahead and just grab both of the wire pairs now, and we can start with the gray. It doesn't matter if you start with the white, but for our sake, let's go ahead and start with the gray. What does matter though is that we do match up positive to positive. So the negative, the identifier, is the black stripe on the gray cable. So this one has the black stripe on the gray wire. That's going to be your negative. This one is just a gray wire with no markings on it. That's your positive. So let's go ahead and match a positive with the positive. Slide that in. And let's confirm that the blades went all the way through, which it did. And on that same pair, take the negative, which is the gray wire with the black stripe. And again, make sure that the blade isn't sticking. Make sure you can't see the blade on either side, which means it's inside of the connector there. So that's one side of it. Let's do the same with the other side. So let's take the white connector and identify the negative is the wire with the black stripe. The all white wire is the positive. And go ahead and connect that to the positive identifier. Make sure that the blade went through, which it did. And now our negative, just to confirm, is our white wire with the black stripe. And there isn't an identifier on here, so that must be our negative. And that's it. So just to recap what we've done here, this is in lieu of attaching it to your head unit. So if you have an aftermarket head unit, you're not going to attach it here. Aftermarket head unit, you're going to run the RCA connector, which we'll provide and attach to your harness for you, just specify in the drop-down menu. You're going to run that connection all the way up to the back of the head unit and plug it into the back. But we're bypassing that. This is a complete stock radio, so let's keep moving. So we can go ahead and pull down a little bit of the slack wiring, and that's it as far as that part. So let's move on to our ground wire. Grabbing our ground wire, we'll provide an extra few feet of ground wire for you. On each side of that wire, one side has a male bullet connector. On the side that's attached to the harness has a female bullet connector. Just go ahead and attach those connectors. On the other end of the ground wire, you'll find your ground lug to mount on. If you notice, it's the U channel shape, it's not the ring. This is because the ground lug to fit onto, it's not a very easy bolt to get off. You can access it, you can turn it, you can loosen it, so it's best just to loosen it, slide this underneath while you're holding it, and tighten that back down. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that. That's underneath the passenger seat on the left frame side, on the left rail side over here. So to install the ground wire, we're going to attach to a bolt that's underneath the passenger seat. We're going to route the wire along the seat rail here. They go on the inside, underneath, and we're going to attach the bolt. So I'll show you how to do that now. So route the wire around. There is one connector right here that you'll want to disconnect. So push this button, very easy. Push the button down and pull like this. You can go ahead and pull the carpet back. The ground bolt is right here. So this is with your 10mm open wrench, your box wrench. Get that to where it's loosened up. Not too loose though, because you're just trying to slide the lug up underneath the wire. I would recommend pushing under the lug, putting pressure to hold it on to the stud, or else when you tighten this down, it could slip out. So push like I do here on with my finger, and use the other hand to tighten it down. Now that's tightened. We're going to go ahead and hide the cabling underneath the carpeting here. So now we're just going to go ahead and tuck the ground cable underneath the trim here. And this is where I use the trim tool. I'm just going to push the wire underneath the trim. You can go ahead and push this back in now. And this just snaps right back into place like so. And any other trim panels along the way. You can push the ground wire all the way up inside underneath the trim. Now we're all done with this area. Let's go ahead and put that trim piece back on. Just 2 snaps. and you're good to go. We're gonna reattach our panel. This snaps right back on, like so. Let's go ahead and tuck our wires in there. Make sure we don't pinch them. Snap it in, and there you go, now we're done. So now we're gonna go ahead down to the wires here. And these 3 wires are together. The ground, the gray, and the white wires are all together. And they're just gonna be tucked underneath the trim here. And if you need to use your trim tool, as long as it's either a plastic trim tool or if it's metal, go ahead and wrap it in a piece of tape. You can pretty much just push the rest of it with your finger here, like I'm doing. And it's just gonna follow this trim all the way up. It's gonna follow this trim back here. It's gonna follow all along here. You can go ahead and remove this carpet. Just pull it out. It just pulls right out from beneath there. And we go ahead and follow this, trim this wire all the way up. Like I said, if you need to use your trim tool, go ahead and push the wire back in there more. If you see any little parts where it's sticking out, you can pull the wire, pull the carpeting back. Slide this underneath the carpeting, like so. And you're gonna follow this all along the way, and you can just fold this carpeting back underneath there. All right, so you have the wire harness to this point here. You have all of the cable buried underneath the carpet as far as it'll go until you reach the mounting brackets for the benches. It's good that you have the slack here, which is why you want to start with the wiring in the A-pillar here. You want to have a little bit of slack left over to tuck behind the sub when you install the sub. So what we need to do is we need to lower this seat because we need to gain access to behind that seat there. Push that forward. All right, now that we have the wire harness over here, what we want to do is slide this in between the seats to go into the back to be able to pull the harness out from where the sub is going to go. So this is going to go back behind here. I'm going to reach back with my right hand to grab this here and to pull the harness up. So I'm going to leave that, and now I'm going to come over to the driver's side, climb in the back seat, and pull this power wire through so we can route the power wire up to the battery. All right, we're over here on the driver's side now, so we're going to take care of a couple of steps, which are the power wire. We're going to pull that power wire up. We're going to go ahead and install our base control wire. We're going to, of course, slide the sub into spot here. So let's go ahead and take out the rubber car mat here. So what we want to do first is we're going to lower this seat, and by doing that, first we need to pull up on the red wire cable. So you'll see the slack is left over here. We just want to pull that up onto this side. So this just keeps coming up through the area that you pushed the main wire harness through. All this is doing is putting this wire on that side of the bench over to this side of the bench, following the same path. So you go ahead and pull it all the way through. Now we can lower our passenger rear seat. Go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and prepare to slide our sub into the slot. So we can untie our base control knob wire, because this is going to plug into the sub also in the front here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this installed, but I want to show you a couple of things here. Mainly are the adjustments. Since we are installing this to a stock head unit, the power needs to be set at DC. This amp has 2 options. You can go to DC or you can go to 12. If you were going to go to the aftermarket head unit, you'd flip it up to 12. But since we're going to the stock head unit and we're going into the speaker wires over there, it's going to go into DC. Okay, let's get that mode in. Let's go ahead and connect our base control knob. Might as well go ahead and connect the main harness. So that just plugs right over here. So this is about as much slack as you can get out of the speaker / RCA wire. Go ahead and slide the sub as far back as you can, just to allow yourself some slack in the cabling there. So once that's in there, the installation of the sub itself is pretty easy. There's a perfect little tray there for this to slide right into. Just fits right into it like it's made for it. So of course the speaker is going to face outwards. The back of the sub box is going to face against the wall. Just turn it around. Let it slide right in there. What we can do now, these wires are going to go underneath the seat and follow back around this way. So what we can do is drop it down, drop the wires down just a little bit, so that way once you lift the seat up, you can reach underneath there and grab the red power and the black bass control wire. So you go ahead and lift that seat up, and there's the wires right here. So there's the red wire and the black wire. Go ahead and pull these through. And you can drop them on the driver's side up there, because that's the direction that the wires are going to be ran along the trim here. And we can just feed them all up that way there. We're going to do the same thing on this side as we did on that side with the power wire and the bass knob wire. We're going to run along the trim all along the way in. All right, so now just like the other side, we're going to pull this carpet out. We're going to put the wires right behind here. We can go ahead and put the carpeting back. That's going to bury that underneath there. So I'm going to follow along this way here. This carpeting, it looks like it's underneath this bolt, so I'm not going to mess with it. If you want to loosen this bolt and see if you can get the carpeting out, I think I'm okay with just leaving it there, to be honest with you, because it's going to tuck underneath everything. It's going to tuck back inside this corner here, and then you're just going to tuck it underneath the trim along the way. And if you need to use your trim tool to push the wires anywhere, but really what I like to do is I like to lift the trim piece up to allow this to slide underneath it. So that way you're not really just wedging on the wire. All right, so now we're really on the home stretch of this install. We're going to install the power wire, and we're going to install the bass control knob underneath the dashboard here. As I said earlier, I'm not screwing into the dashboard. I'm going to use some Velcro. It's your dash. You can screw if you want to. I would definitely recommend the Velcro. We're going to provide it for you, so do as what you please. All right. In order to prep the power wire, so it has a male bullet connector that we're going to attach for you. I would just go ahead and recommend tying a little piece of tape around that while you pull it through the engine compartment. It's not connected to anything but the amp itself, but anyway, just to make sure. So let's go ahead and tie a little piece of tape around that real quick. Let's go ahead and tackle the bass control knob. As you can see, there's plenty of wire. The area that we chose is right here, which is by the left knee. You can put this thing anywhere that you see fit for it. This is the best area, the easiest access that we found. So what we're going to go ahead and do is remove this panel here. As you can see, I have the door open out of the way, and I'm going to tie up the access slack here. As you can see, up in here, there's a little cavity that this can slide right down into. In between the trim, you let that piece hang over there. You go in here and replace the trim just to see how it's going to sit. You pull this right along top, kind of tuck it in on the top there. Go ahead and connect the bass control. And find the spot that works best for you. Right? So does this work for you? Does this work best for you? Make sure it's going to clear the door when it closes. This is what we found to be the best spot. So I'm good with that. I'm happy with that spot. I'm going to remove the Velcro. So there you go. And it's Velcroed on there. It's not permanent. If you need to remove that, if you want to remove that later on, you can. If you like that spot, great. If you don't like that spot, you can always pick another spot later on. When you're sitting in the seat, you can't notice the wire that's underneath it. As we did before, we put the little white dot on there so you can see the volume control of the bass. I think it works just fine. All right, now we're going to go ahead and run the power wire up. It's going to go right up into the left side of the brake pedal, right up here. There's a rubber plastic grommet. I'm going to push this into the engine compartment, and it may fall on the ground. And if so, we'll catch it. This pushes in by squeezing on these two tabs, and sorry you can't really see. We'll show you the two tabs, and just like so. So while we're down here, let's go ahead and might as well just push the wire through and just go ahead and feed all of it through, and we'll grab the rest of it in the engine compartment. All right, we're in the engine compartment. We're gonna go ahead and grab the power cable. Here's the power cable. Here's the grommet that you push through. I've already pre-drilled the grommet here. Just go ahead and drill through with your 1/4-inch drill bit, and you're good to go. And this will fit through. So you want to fit this through the back side. You may need to open that hole a little bit more than a 1/4-inch just to kind of push it through because of the tape now on there. Now just follow that down, Let that fall in there. Now the grooves on here, these two tabs do need to be on 12 and 6. I find it best to use my right hand so I can push back in there. So when you put this in, put those little grooves at a quarter turn counterclockwise. Once you have it seated into the circle, then you can twist it clockwise and it'll slide right into spot and lock right in. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and fish the wire to the other side of the engine. I'm gonna fish this wire through here, and I'm gonna wait until I have this zip tied down till it's firm and tight before I put the silicone on. You don't wanna put the silicone on and then move it around, so I'm gonna push it through there, zip tie it, make sure it's nice and tight, and then I'll finish it off with the silicone. So let's go ahead and push this through here. Push this in here. Go ahead and zip tie this on here so this is nice and tight, secure. Then put our last zip tie over here. Cut our tabs off. All right, now let's just go ahead and take a little dab of silicone and put it around there. Just an extra safety precaution. You may already get water in your Jeep, but just as a precaution here, let's go ahead and stop whatever we can. So I just put a little dab of silicone on my finger there. Let's go ahead and put some silicone around the hole there. There you go. We're good with that. All right, now we're done on this side. Cable's over there. We're going to finish the rest of the power wire run over on that side, tie it into the battery, and then really be done. All right, now we're over here on the passenger side. Let's go ahead and run the power wire through this little plastic piece here, through this little plastic piece here. And once that is nice and tight, let's go ahead and zip tie this guy here. Cut our zip ties, not our cable. With our 10 mil, we're gonna loosen, actually we're gonna remove the positive battery terminal. Attach the pre-terminated inline fuse cable. Go ahead and tighten down our 10 mil. You can button that up, and now you're ready to connect the final connection here. You can hide the wire down in between there. You can remove the tape off of the bullet connector and go ahead and connect your male, female bullet connectors for your final power. And I would go ahead and wrap a little piece of tape over this connection as well. And push that down in there. Remove your access. And that is it. Our powered sub is fully installed in our Jeep Gladiator. Let's go ahead and get this hood closed up and we can test this thing out and see what it sounds like. All right guys, we are done with the sub. We're done with the kicker install. We're ready to go ahead and crank this thing up and show you what it sounds like.
Hey, I want to
Hey. Oh sure, now you show up.
Yeah.
For the good part, huh?
What are we doing?
Yeah. Oh, we're just gonna listen to something here. Wow.
Wow.
Now, I mean,
I'm like, my whole seat was shaking.
this thing sounds phenomenal. This is Kicker's powered 10-inch sub box behind the passenger seat there. And I mean,
Impressive.
Very, very impressive.
Yeah.
Totally blown away. This is again with the stock head unit also. And now we have the Kicker upgraded speakers, which are available. We have the Kicker sub behind the seat there, which is phenomenal and available. So, I mean, well done. Kicker, well done. Thank you.
I did a good job today.
You did a great job today. Thanks for showing up.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so thanks a lot, guys, for being here. Thanks for watching it. I really enjoyed it. I'm very impressed with the results of it. I'm very excited about the results of it. I am very confident that you're going to be excited about the results of it, and you're going to enjoy it. So if you'd like to pick up your Kicker sub, either 10-inch or 8-inch, whether you have an amplified Jeep, a non-amplified Jeep, whether you have a stock head unit, non-stock head unit, this thing covers it all. Visit us today at www.trail7.com, and until then, we'll see you on the trails.